This is section 5.9, and we're factoring trinomials, things that have three terms, and these all have a number out in front of our x squared. I'm going to look at number 17. In number 17, we have 5 plus 7x minus 6x squared. Now, I told you before that we usually put these in standard form to factor them. This one's not in standard form. It's actually kind of backwards, isn't it? I would argue that in this case, it's probably better not to put it in standard form because you've got a negative 6 in front of your x squared. If we put a negative out front, that might make it kind of hard. So you don't have to put it in standard form to factor it, and I think this time I'm going to leave it this way. Okay, so there's nothing that'll divide out of all the terms, so if it's going to factor, it's going to have to do this. Now, so we're going to have to kind of look. If I've got a 5 here, the only thing I can do to get a 5 is a 5 times a 1. So if I kind of come down here to kind of figure out how I might get things to multiply to give me negative 6 with these 5 and this 5 and this 1, I needed to add up to the number in the middle, and the number in the middle is 7. It's a positive 7. Okay. So let's see what we could do here. I know that I can get negative 6 with a negative 1 and a 6, or a 1 and a negative 6. I know that I can get it with a 2 and a negative 3, or a negative 2 and a positive 3, and that's the only way I can get it. So you kind of mentally run through all the things you could do here. We might start, you might look at the numbers first. I noticed that I've got a 5 and 1 and a 2 and a minus 3. And I want you to look at this. What if I did 5 times 2, which is 10, and 1 times negative 3? I'd have 10 minus 3, and that would give me 7. So there's my combination that would work. Now, this x squared term on the end, I know I'm going to have to put an x here and an x here to go with it. And now I just need to make sure I put the numbers that I figured out down here at the bottom in the right place. So to get the minus 6x squared, I'm going to use a 2 and a negative 3. I need to kind of remember my smiley face is underneath. I want the 5 to end up getting multiplied by the 2. See how I had connected them right here with this? I'll draw over it, the green now, over the red. So if the 5 and the 2 are going to get multiplied, it's going to have to be a plus 2, and I'll stick it in front of that x, so the 5 will get multiplied by it. Now the 1 here got multiplied by a negative 3. 2 times negative 3 was the negative 6 that I needed. So I'm going to put the negative 3 over here so it'll get multiplied by the 1. 5 times 2x is 10x. Negative 3x times 1 is negative 3x. And so those are like terms, and when I add them, I get the 7x. So this is my answer. How could I factor this? It's 5 minus 3x times 1 plus 2x. And that would be probably the easiest way to do that one. So sometimes maybe it's okay not to put it in standard form. If you see something like this happening where you would end up with a negative out in front of your x squareds, that can get kind of confusing. So you might want to consider factoring it this way. I think I'll choose another couple. Choose one now and see. Let's see. Let's look at number 25. 25, most people would think it's a little harder because I've got 9, sorry for the line there, 9m squared minus 25mn minus 6n squared. And the reason this one's kind of harder, there's nothing I can factor out. Nothing divides out of any of those terms. So it's going to have to be one of these harder ones. At first I thought, oh good, maybe it's got some perfect squares in it, except that 9 and m squared is a perfect square, but 6n squared is not. 6 is not a perfect squared. So when I go list the ways I could get 9m squared, I know I'll have an m here and an m here, but what numbers are going to go in front of it? Because it could be 9 times 1, or it could be 3 times 3. There's more than one way to get 9, so that's why this one's a little harder. On the other hand, that negative 6n squared, if I just look at the numbers for a minute, how am I going to get, here's how I had to get 9, how am I going to get negative 6? Well, 1 times negative 6, negative 1 times 6, 2 times negative 3, or negative 2 times 3. I've got lots of possibilities here that could happen. So this one's going to be a little harder. So we're kind of looking for a way to maybe get a 25 out of this. Now this takes practice. You may have to go 9 times 1 is 9 and 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. And you can see that's not going to add up to 25. Actually, I want it to add up to a negative 25. Now, if you kind of look at all the different numbers you've got here, you could go one by one till you figure it out, okay? Sometimes, after a while, you might be able to kind of take an overall look at it. If I want a negative 25, that's a pretty big number. So maybe I want to look at this 9. What if I did this? Maybe you think, oh, 9 and 1 and the 2 and the 3 might work, because 9, if I multiply the 9, let's try this one first. 9 times 3 would be 27, and 1 times negative 2 would be negative 2, and when I did that, I'd get a positive 25. So that one's not right, but it's close, isn't it? I want a negative 25, so I'll go, well, maybe it's not that one. Maybe it's the one above it. 9 times negative 3 is negative 27, and 1 times 2 is a positive 2, and negative 27 plus 2 is negative 25. Now, I was able to kind of look at this and see the numbers that would work, but I've been doing this a lot longer than you have. You may have to go step by step through these, and you can pick one that you think looks good, and if it doesn't work out with all the numbers, you can cross it out. And the thing about it is this 9 times 2 and 1 times negative 2, 9 times negative 2 and 1 times 3 that I tried first and I crossed out, I really need to look and see if I hadn't had it worked and I didn't find something that did work really quickly, I'd also have to check it out with this 3 and this 3 and the 3 over here. So you got to look at all the different ways you can combine this. I just happened to notice that this would work. So I need to multiply it's going to be a 9 times a 1 m, and I'm just going to write 9m times m. And then the numbers in the second slot are going to need to be, the 9 is going to need to go with with a negative 3 here. And remember that smiley face connects it here. When I do my distributing, I'd get a negative 27 there. And the 1, let me use a different color. The 1's going to need to multiply by the 2 to give me a positive 2. So the 1m, remember there's a 1 here, gets multiplied by this 2. That would be a positive 2m, and this would be a negative 27m. That would give me a negative 25m. But wait, why isn't there an n on it? Oh, you know what? There was an n squared down here. Remember how we can kind of ignore it and then just stick it in? That 6n squared is going to come from 2n, and I'll have to squeeze that in there, times negative 3n. Okay, now this one has a sign, the second one, m minus 3, and it has a sign, but I didn't write anything over here. That's because that was a positive 2, and I forgot to write my plus sign. So you kind of have to check back and make sure you have a plus or minus in between everything, and then fix it if you don't. So when I'm done, this one factors out is to 9m plus 2n times m minus 3n. There's my answer right there. I'll try one more. This video is getting kind of long, but let's try another one. Let's do 33. 33 is 32n squared minus 4n minus 15. Well, this one might be a little harder because there are all the different ways we could get 32. 32 is 1 times 32. It could be 2 times 16. It could be 4 times 8. And 15 could be 1. Okay, but it's a negative 15. This was a positive 32. Negative 15 could be 1 times negative 15, or negative 1 times 15, and 3 times negative 5, or negative 3 times 5. So there's all these different ways, and I have to look for how am I going to combine these. I got to figure out what to put in front of the n's to get 32n squared, but have it add up to negative 4. Now the negative 4 is kind of a small number, so I'm kind of thinking my numbers might end up close together. So if I'm going to decide where I might start checking out, I might try this 4 and this 8 with some numbers. Let's see. 4. How can I get this to work? Notice this. I want a negative 4, so I need more negatives than positives. My first thought is to try the 4 and the 8 times these, because these are all kind of numbers that are close together. If I said 4 times 3, that would be 12 plus 8 times negative 5, ooh, that would be 12 minus 40. Not close together. But what if I put the 4 and the negative 5 together? I'm going to mark that out. What if I said 4 times negative 5 plus 8 times 3? That would be negative 20 plus 24. That would be a positive 4. That's really close, isn't it? But it's a positive one, so I probably want to say it's not this one. Let me go check out this other one down here. Let me do the figuring for this in a green color or something, just so we can. I'm going to try now. I noticed that I got a 20 and a 24. Let me try the 4 and the 5 to get the 20. So 4 times 5 gives me 20. And then I'm going to add in 8 times negative 3. 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. And 20 plus negative 24 is the negative 4 that I need. Yay, I found it. I need to have a 4 in front of one of the ends and an 8 in front of the others. And now I need the 4 to get multiplied by a 5, so I'm going to put the 5 here. And I need I'll use this color, this 8 here to get multiplied by the negative 3, minus 3. Okay, there was a negative on that one, so I remembered my sign. I had a positive 5, and I forgot my sign, so I'll go and put a plus because it was a positive 5. Let's check this out. 4n times 8n is 32n squared. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. All I need to do is get that middle term. This is negative 24n. I'll write it down. This is positive 20n. If I add those together, I get negative 4n. I have found it. This is my answer right here. This is how I could factor that.